The views and opinions of this broadcast do not reflect the views and opinions of Armed Media, New Productions and its affiliates. Enjoy the show.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to All You Can Eat. This is the podcast about deliciousness. And I'm your host, Rob Rosenthal, coming to you live here at, 8:03 on the East Coast, coming to you live from New York City, New York, where it's a chilly, 30-something with a light snow. Certainly glad to be here with you. Thank you for joining in. Love the fact that we can do this live. And I'll tell you, when you do it live, I suppose, anything could happen. As I like to say, and we're at episode number 46, by the way, and I can't think of any one of the first 45 where something didn't technically go wrong, because that's the little risk that you take if you're going live. But I love the live. I just love the energy of it, And I got to tell you something else that I love. I love that it's Wednesday and it's, kind of dinner time on the East Coast. Hump day, whatever you want to call it. The first part of the week is over. Now we get into kind of the good stuff. So from a food perspective, it's a great time to be coming to you. So thank you to the guys up at, the gang up at, on radio who produced the show, which runs live anywhere across the internet. In fact, if you want to call in, by the way, 800-508-5431. It's 800-508-5431. Today is what? The 20th day? 2/20 of 19. You ever have those, you just think of something and it's like, it's just me. I don't know, I guess we all do. I just I looked at the calendar, see there's 2/20/19, and for some reason, all I could think of was, next year at this time, it'll be 2/20/20. And anyway, I don't know, it was small then, it feels even smaller now. Coming to you live. This week I'm coming at you solo, by the way. Just me. I'll tell you exactly what we're going to be covering over the rest of our time together here. Last week, though, I will remind you that I had a lovely and long discussion with Dana Redman, mostly about travel, because Dana herself is a legit travel expert, writes about travel everywhere and all over, and also is your travel reporter on KRON TV in San Francisco. So you could see her on air talking about travel, a real expert on the subject. That was great. But tonight I'm coming to you straight up, just me. And I start this evening with a quote from a Frenchman by the name of Brillat Severin. He said, Burgundy makes you think of silly things, Bordeaux makes you talk of them, and Champagne makes you do them. My reminder to you, my friends, at 8:00-something p.m. Eastern Standard Time, wherever you are, even if it's 5 o'clock for you or if it's later, grab yourself whatever your favorite beverage is, perhaps a snack, and sit down and let's talk about food. Because All You Can Eat is the podcast about deliciousness. By the way, one final kind of note before we get into the meat and potatoes, as it were. Dana Redman and 45 other previous podcasts can be found where? On iHeartRadio. So if you go to iHeartRadio and you do a search in the podcast section, either for Rob Rosenthal or for All You Can Eat, there you will find, my friends, a whole lot of the All You Can Eat podcasts. Welcome to tonight. Welcome back to those of you who tune in with some regularity. Hello to the new people. Tonight what we should talk about is a couple things. First of all, what was for dinner. Second of all, what is the proper way to reheat pizza? Because that just showed up for me. We have some recipes to go over because, mid-February is still like it's cooking time. And in addition to that, I would like to report to you on the 10 or 11 biggest restaurant trends of 2019 that you can look forward to this year. And I'm going to assume that we'll have some time to get into a little section that we call All the President's Meals. I found an article online in a publication, by the way, that I didn't even know existed because it has nothing to do with food. I mean, foreign policy. Kind of funny that came to me. But anyway, they did the most comprehensive article you can imagine on presidential state dinners dating back to FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, which is 1930, basically, 33, 34. And it's so exhaustive because they kept and archived every single menu, every item served. These people at FP, is that what it's called? FP? Yeah, it is. What is the foreign policy? Unbelievable. Foreign policy, magazine online. It is so exhaustive with data, with tables, with beautiful visuals. I'll tell you exactly where to find it, but let's go over it. We will go over at some point what has changed at presidential state dinners from the time of FDR to the time of the current president, Mr. Donald Trump. First, let's talk about the 11... even before we get into the restaurant trends of 2019, I did mention that we should, I just wanted to do a quick thing on what's going on my palate. I'm fortunate, if you live, I have a lot of options restaurant-wise, just, even, to get on the phone and send up some, Chinese, but not just, any old Chinese. It could be Sichuan, it could be Hunan, it could be Cantonese, whatever. And there's a place that's not terribly far away that is a Sichuan restaurant. So, historically in America, and it's funny because it shows up in this presidential state thing, dinner. Like there was a trip to China a long time ago, and that actually changed kind of the profile of Chinese food, in America, which has historically been, Cantonese, from the city of Canton, and the name of that city has changed, but it's Guangzhou or something. But the point is that a lot of the food that we grew up on, Mandarin, Cantonese, and good, by the way. I mean, nobody's going to argue about, roast pork and lobster Cantonese, and those kind of things. Sichuan food is the food, if you're lucky and it's good, that you find where you look at the menu and 3/4 of the items have that little red pepper next to it. Because it's spicy. Sichuan food is spicy food. And if you go, by the way, to a Sichuan restaurant, and I think, people make the mistake, of sometimes ordering kind of like what they would in maybe a basic, Cantonese place. You know what I mean? You go into a Sichuan restaurant and you're asking for like wonton soup. I think you're asking for trouble. It's not their thing. You go into a Sichuan restaurant, you should be looking for Sichuan specialties. This is a long way around saying that I got a place that I have delivered to me, and they make a chicken stew, Sichuan style. It comes in like a pool of liquid. I mean, literally like a boat. The delivery dish is the deep white plastic thing, and all you can see when it shows up with the plastic top still on is you see those peppercorns, the same ones that you see on the menu, except these are not in paper. These are, peppers, not peppercorns. These are just the red, chili peppers, and there's not like 5 of them in there. There's 50. So you're going to get some heat, but that's not all you're getting. You're getting Sichuan peppercorns themselves, which are, exactly what they sound like. They are the peppercorns that are used fragrant in the Sichuan cooking, in the Sichuan province. And not only are they fragrant, they actually numb your mouth. Like they literally make your mouth numb. Now, this may not sound exciting to you. You ready? It gets worse. It gets worse because it's not only that you have 50 of these chili peppers. And it's not only that you have just a metric ton of Szechuan peppercorns, so you have heat and mouth numbing. The chicken actually comes on the bone, and I mean like they just cut it up funny. You may have the tip of a wing, right? So it's not only the meat of the chicken, but there's also fat and tendon and so much bone, so that way when I have called up, because this dish, I'm going to cut right to the kind of conclusion here, is so good and so addictive, and the best Chinese food that I've had in a decade. I order it with, as I like to say, because I feel like I've already said it, some regularity. I mean, this is probably the 6th or 7th time, and every single time I order, I say, "Can I have the zhuang?" I don't know, the stewed chicken, whatever they call it on the menu there, zhuang quing zhang. They say, it comes, with the bone. Yes, I do. I know. I'm fine with that. It's the kind of food where you chew on the bone and you get the meat, and you might even not eat the bone and some of the whatever other stuff. It's fantastic. It is fantastic. And then, of course, there's enormous chunks of chicken with less bone or no bone. And if that weren't good enough, in this beautiful, fragrant red stew, and if that weren't enough, there's a little, just perfectly cooked potatoes, little bites of potatoes intermixed with your chicken in this spicy broth that numbs your tongue and gives you heat, and you have it with white rice, and it is so good. Anyway, I had some of that, and that's really what I wanted to say about that. If you have the opportunity to get yourself some Szechuan food, don't be afraid. I find this stuff addictive, even though it's numbing my mouth and heating me to a hot point. I will say also, by the way, that I'm looking at a picture that I myself took of a roasted head of cauliflower. I don't mean like roasted cauliflower, like all cut up. I mean the entire head. And the reason I'm looking at that is because I made it earlier this week by doing nothing more than taking an entire head of cauliflower and painting it with some oil. I used avocado because that's what I have. You could use kind of whatever you want. I prefer not to use like a high quality olive oil because that's not really meant to be used at this heat. So any other oil that is good with high heat. Avocado is fantastic. I suppose you could use any other neutral type, grapeseed, soy, whatever your kind of preferred oil is. And then I painted this thing also with some of your Frank's hot sauce. So you literally could call that, and it goes into the oven, and it just goes in for a long time. I put it on a cast iron pan, the whole head, painted, as I said, with your oil, and you could literally use like one of those pastry brushes or whatever, or just dump the oil on and then hit the Frank's all over it. I hit it up also, by the way, for those of you who've heard me before, I like the berbere, the BER, that's an Ethiopian spice. It's a blend of 10 spices, so I hit it up with that as well. Stick it in the oven at like 400, basically, right in that cast iron pan. It's sitting there for an hour or more. As long as it looks, I want it to be dark. I don't want it to be burnt. I want it to be super dark, caramelized, and I want it to be so soft, the cauliflower, that I can cut it up with a spoon. And that's sitting in there for an hour or so or more. If you feel like it's getting too, dark, you can turn down the heat. Let it just sit there. There's no rush. Longer, better, softer, fantastic, with that deep, kind of rich, burnished. It's just a beautiful color. Oh, in fact, if you want to look at it, here, do this. I posted the picture, as I do, on Instagram. So if you're an Instagram person, you just search for me. There on Instagram, I come in as Short Order Dad. One word, Short Order Dad. And then you can see a photo of that buffalo berbere cauliflower. Man, that was tasty good. And this is, midwinter, it's cauliflower season. Cauliflower season. It is. Short Order Dad on Instagram, if you want, you could take a look at that beauty. So that's what's down on the menu, the Szechuan, the cauliflower. Let's take a look at, because I thought this was interesting, for us all. Trends. This is a food and wine article. These will be the 11 biggest restaurant trends of 2019, according to chefs. If you've heard me, you know that I'm not always big on the believability of lists. But this one is coming to you from Food and Wine, and it's according to chefs, meaning this is their way of saying we got 10 different, essentially, points of view, right? This is not mathematical. It's not quantitative or methodical. This is just like people telling you, restaurant people, and legit, by the way, you'll recognize some of their names potentially. From James Beard award-winning and Michelin-starred chefs to culinary personalities, cookbook authors, and all-around food royalty, here's what they had to say. Spoiler alert, get ready for more plant-based dining and fast casual spots. So these are people with some, certainly, credibility and experience and a point of view. Okay. Restaurant trend number 1, old school French technique. It's making a comeback. A lot of older French techniques are reemerging, but in their true unadulterated form, says Jeremy Ford. I don't know if it's true or if it isn't true. I like it if it is. I went to cooking school that was based on French technique. I'm happy to see that kind of food. And I suppose it's true because literally just yesterday, there was a big article in the restaurant review in the New York Times, and the restaurant and the article was about the restaurant that they reviewed is a restaurant that's predicated on kind of classic French technique food. What is that? What am I talking about there? Your steak au poivre and your potatoes lyonnaise and your beautiful, Dijon vinaigrette and your leeks and pâtés and frisée salad. I mean, it's just like a lot of beautiful food in that. Here's another trend for you. I don't like the name of it though. Smaller format restaurants. I mean, in English, that means that restaurants will be serving smaller portions. I don't know where format comes from. This is from Daniel Boulou, super famous chef, not only here in New York, but, television, that kind of thing. He says, I think we'll continue to see more elevated bar and lounges where both the drinks and food are very experimental. New places such as Kaido in Miami or the Aviary in New York City have a loungy scene and really creative bar food with focused and knowledgeable service. I also see a trend of smaller format restaurants with counter dining, open kitchens, and tasting menus, allowing chefs to be spontaneous and free with their cooking. This is all good. I love, don't you guys? I mean, I'm happy to go to a place that's serving, drinks and good bar food. It's like, sometimes you go to those, your weddings and your big events. Sometimes the best part of that is the cocktail hour and the hors d'oeuvres. So I like this whole trend. I don't believe actually that this is going to allow chefs to be spontaneous and free with their cooking. But you know what? If it does, so be it. I like that. Place that you can go have a great cocktail. I had one yesterday. The hardest part of the cocktail was the name. Boulevardier. I mean, it's a great drink. I just, you feel a little bit, awkward ordering the thing. What would you have, sir? I'll have a A Boulevardier. Anyway, it's a Negroni, but instead of gin, it's made with bourbon. It's very lovely. And the point of the story is only that I like the idea of drinks and small plates. Who doesn't? Shared. A lot of food. Interesting. Then again, I don't mean, by the way, it's funny. I'm talking about a Boulevardier, which sounds kind of fancy. Here's the truth. The Super Bowl, all I wanted to do was go to a sports bar where there were crowds, huge televisions, and drinks and wings like that. And I did. I ended up at a place in Florida, in the West Palm area. What was that called? That sport? I can't for the life of me. I don't know. I can't remember the name. We get in at Super Bowl time, and the waitress. This is the best part. Waitress comes over. What do you have to drink? It's 2 for 1. I go, 2 for 1. I mean, I'm already happy now. It's 100 TV sets tuned to the game. 2-for-1, which turns out that this particular sports bar does like 24/7 every day. It wasn't special for the Super Bowl. Anytime you go in there and you have one drink, they give you a second. And all I want now is bring over the chicken wings. Just that's exciting to me. Cocktails, beer, something on the TV, wings. I don't even need the TV. I need the cocktails and the wings. Let's see, what other trend here? Eating in is a trend. Definitely eating in and not dining out is a big one. This may be a mix of to-go items, meal prep packages, home cooking, and potlucks. The future of dining is in the comfort of our own homes. Helene Henderson, cookbook author, chef, and owner of Malibu Farm. Well, I, for one, hope Helene is correct. I have been a major proponent of, supporter of, encourager of home cooking. If you've tuned in before, you know that I have written a book on cooking at home. I'm all about that. Short Order Dad, one guy's guide to making food fun and hassle-free. Amazon, Walmart, Barnes & Noble. 100 recipes. Stuff that you could make at home using basically 5 ingredients. Most taste, fewest ingredients, least effort, fabulous. Anything you want to know about cooking, you can reach me. Short Order Dad. Find me somewhere. Twitter, Instagram, Gmail. And if you want to call in, 800-508-5431. Fast casual everything is the next trend. There are many things happening, but my prediction is that fast casual will make significant inroads. We'll continue to see luxury ingredients served in a very simple fashion with self-service, says Jeffrey Zakarian, chopped judge, chef, restaurateur, and owner of etc., etc., etc. Fast casual, significant, luxury ingredients, simple, self-service. Okay. Latin American cooking. This one is Michelle Bernstein. She owns a place in down in Florida. She is a cookbook author. She is a television personality. She says, I've noticed an influx of chefs from Central and South America opening fine dining restaurants in the U.S., especially in Miami. I see people opening up to trying the flavors of Latin America. And I also see spreading across the country. It wasn't long ago when people didn't know the difference between Mexican cuisine with foods from Cuba, Venezuela, etc. But that has changed and will continue to. I think Michelle Bernstein is spot on. Cuban food. Mexican food, Venezuelan food, Puerto Rican foods. Argentine recently had some fabulous empanadas, kind of meat stuffed. Well, they could be cheese stuffed and whatever. They're stuffed. They're stuffed, baked, kind of shells. Baked, what do you call it? Like an empanada? It's like what is it? Pastry. Yeah, it's a pastry kind of dough, but not in a sweet way, in a savory way, filled with meat. Oh, fantastic. Anyway, flavors from all over the South American part of the world. Totally agree that that's a trend, and it's one that I really like and encourage. Kelp. Kelp, and more kelp. It's a sustainable option that's good for diners and the ocean, so you'll see a lot more of it, says Mark Murphy, executive chef and owner of Benchmark Restaurants and Chop Judge. Excuse me, I met Mark Murphy, interviewed him, good guy. I haven't seen kelp anywhere. I just haven't. I mean, maybe in a health food store. Sustainable. And good for diners and good for the ocean. I don't know. I guess it's I don't even want to get into it. I mean, I'm sure it's going to happen. Plant-based entrees. It's not a matter of substituting a meat product for a plant-based option like a burger or chicken. It's about using fresh plant-based ingredients to create delicious meals that aren't just alternatives to meat, but complete dishes on their own. Lorena Garcia, chef at Chica, Las Vegas, restaurateur, cookbook author. Plant-based entrees. Yeah, I suppose there's going to be more of that. Phoneless dining. Breaking bread with your friends without your phone. Along these lines, trying to figure out interactive or shared dishes to make people interact more. Mark Forgione, chef and partner at Mark Forgione. I think this is a how do you people feel about this? I mean, about the idea. I mean, about phoneless dining. I just love it because I find that whole phone thing is such an obstacle, is such an interruption, and people are addicted. I get that, to the phone, and use it all you want. But when it comes to dining, and when I say dining, I don't mean in a fancy way. I mean eating, sitting down at the table with somebody else. Put the phone away. It's so often that I see people, even like lovely, normal-looking young couples, sitting at a table for two, each, in their own phone, not into each other. I don't mean to be old-fashioned, but it's just kind of sad. So putting away your phone over at dinner time seems right to me. It seems good to me. Use the meal not only to stuff your face, but to create contact and community and interaction with another human being. So I like that. Mark Forgione, good on you, baby. Hope you're right. I hope when I go to Mark Forgione's restaurants, they make you turn off the phone or put it in a basket at the table or something. Plant proteins. It's all about plant proteins, but not in the way you may imagine. For sure CBD, but more like burgers in plant form that are as greasy and not really healthy as regular ones. Just more protein conscious, says Spike Mendelson. Chef at Vim and Victor and consultant. I don't know. I don't disagree there's going to be plant proteins, but to be honest with you, I'm not sure that I understand the idea of making it not healthy and greasy and more protein conscious, because I don't know how much more protein you can get than a real hamburger that has its own natural grease to it. More sourcing transparency. People want to know more and more about where their food is coming from. They don't want to ignore what they're eating anymore, which forces chefs to take a closer look at sourcing. Okay. Activist chefs. Well, on the other hand, with Chef Jose Andres nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize, it shows the capability our industry has to improve the lives in the communities we serve. We can assemble ourselves to help others as we move into 2019. Thomas Bomer, chef and owner of the Twist Davis Group. You know what? Here's the thing. I don't mean to laugh, because the truth of the matter is Jose Andres is a hero, a chef, and a prodigiously talented one with restaurants all over Washington, D.C., Los Angeles, California, etc., etc. And he's been feeding people in disaster areas, whether it's Puerto Rico or feeding government workers. This guy, and that's why he was nominated for Nobel Peace Prize. He's really making a difference. Good for him. Activist chef. So there are some trends to look forward to in the year 2019. Now, let us move on. Oh, right. Oh, here's the thing. I'm going to take a quick message break here to tell you that they sent me some product to sample and report on. These are the people from a company called Wilde, W-I-L-D-E. And you know what they make? Chicken chips. The press release says Wild Chicken Chips revolutionize snacking nationwide. The first to market thin and crispy chicken chips. I don't know what you're thinking of, by the way, when you think of chicken chips. But they are, according to this very press release, the unpotato chip, a simple recipe of whole food, nutrient-dense ingredients, premium cuts of 100% natural chicken, tapioca flour, and coconut oil. So what you're really getting is a bag of chips, which are made from protein rather than from, like potatoes. While chips break the laws of snacking, yet capture all the characters of classic chip, thin and crispy texture. Yes, I've had. Crunch you can hear, true. Flavor explosion, actually the case. And indulgent, and I'm going to go with indulgent. I mean, I was eating, I tried, let's see, they sent 4 flavors. Which are the ones that I have. Let's see. I had the... Oh, here we go. Right. And they're gluten-free. So that's an advantage. Okay, let's see what I had here. Chicken chips. Oh, yeah, right. I had the jalapeno and I had the buffalo. They also come in salt and vinegar and barbecue. I like them. They're a little salty. I felt that they were a little bit heavy on the salt. But that did not stop me from consuming the entire bag of them. Wild chicken chips, 7 grams of protein, not very much sugar, grain-free, no refined sugar at all. Certified gluten-free, certified paleo, non-GMO, so they got all that going. And where you're going to find them? Whole Foods, Sprouts, Wegmans, Fresh Thyme, King's Shoppers, Hy-Vee, Amazon, and Wild Brands, WILDE brands.com. Wild chicken chips. So there's that. Thank you for that, people. Tasty. I came across this, and this is important because it's about pizza. Anything about pizza is important to me. When it comes to eating leftover pizza, don't sacrifice fresh out of the oven taste for the convenience of cold and soggy seconds. We've asked Pittsburgh-based Italian restaurant owner and chef Dave Anoia of Di Anoia's Eatery to share his chef-approved method of perfectly reheating pizza. 1. Storage matters. Sorry, I'm going to take a little sip here. That's just H2O, but you know how good that is. The cardinal rule of leftover pizza is proper storage. Don't just throw the pizza box in the fridge and call it a day. Instead, wrap each slice in paper towels and plastic wrap to preserve the flavor and freshness. That's step 1. Step 2. Start with a skillet. Chef Dave swears you can avoid soggy crust by using a skillet. Achieve perfectly crisp crust by putting the leftover pizza in a non-stick skillet on high heat and leaving the flame on for 1 minute. I was going to say that'll get you a crispy bottom. What's it going to do to the cheese? Nothing but. And then you go to the next line. Finish in the oven. Preheat your oven to 400 degrees. I would go even higher. After you've crisped the crust, throw the pizza in the oven until the cheese is remelted. The oven will thoroughly reheat the rest of the pizza. And then he throws on this advice. Reinvent your pizza by adding fresh, high-quality ingredients and seasoning. Use what's already in your kitchen, like Parmesan cheese, oregano. You can throw on whatever else it is, of course, that you like. If you have shrooms, I always like that. I think what I'll do is, before we do any kind of recipes, I did mention checking out this thing in the. It's so foreign to me that I still can't even remember the name of the actual publication here. FP is what? Foreign Policy. It's just funny. I mean, so you would, if you were interested in ever seeing this, all the president's meals, just funny. America's laden tables used to wow queens and premiers, but his state dinner diplomacy as outdated as lobster aspic. If you want to see a fun article, it's called "All the President's Meals." It's the feature article in the issue, which I assume is right now, current issue, because it's right around President's Day, of FP Foreign Policy. Foreignpolicy.com, all the president's meals. Let's just take a quick peek at this and see what's what. Frozen cheese with watercress salad, calf's head soup, terrapin with cornbread sticks. I'm sorry, I had to look it up. It's an edible turtle, terrapin. This is what they roll on the menu when U.S. President Franklin Delano Roosevelt hosted Britain's King George VI at a 1939 White House state dinner. Today they sound stomach-churning. But for an American in 1939, the goat cheese gâteau with tomato jam that President Donald Trump served at his 2018 dinner might have provoked the same reaction. White House state dinner menus show how American tastes have changed over time, and with them the image that the country projects to the world. Full dinner tables. The U.S. state dinner is a formal declaration to celebrate the fact that we recognize the head of state and that we welcome him or her in a show of civil hospitality. They're America's guest of honor for the evening. And the other side of that is that we want to show them, what we're making here and what we're proud of. So, and the thing about this article that is so impressive, aside from the fabulous little visuals that they have, is they have data analyzed this thing down to the point where you can press on an interactive kind of visualization and not only see how the meal by president, by administration broke down between meat and wine and dessert and soup and salad, but you click on each component of that and you can actually see the specific things that they ate. I mean, it's unbelievable. American food has gotten a lot more sophisticated in the 1990s, explained the food writer Michael Pollan. And the point being that we didn't really start kind of highlighting the food, the American part of the food, until, the 90s and stuff like that. And let's see. 80 years of trends, cheese palette changed, most of the food in the old days sucked. Okay, so here we go. By president, right? There was a lot of meat and beautiful graphics. So the first one, we go all the way to, 1933, Franklin D. Roosevelt, president, 33 to 1945, had 26 state dinners. And let's see what they served for these state dinners. I was told there would be no waste. Entree soup and fish. Let me see if I can get right to the thing here. What did they serve these people? The food served was modest. Simple chicken and turkey steak dinners, good and wholesome. I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't know what the Roosevelt served. The next president here is Truman. 1945 to 1953, only 6 state dinners. And the only thing I'm going to tell you about Harry S. Truman is that, it's not a joke, he served both the Dutch Prime Minister William Dries and the British Prime Minister Winston Churchill Fritos. Truman was big on the Fritos, exactly the Fritos you think, in that little bag. Who came after him? We have Dwight Eisenhower from 53 to 1961, 24 state dinners in that period of time. So about 3 a year. What did Dwight and Mamie serve? Soups and salads, artichokes, aspic of pate. Eisenhower was the first president to document the selected wines on every state menu. The structure is the same for every state dinner. A sherry with every first course, a sauterne for the next course, a burgundy for the following, and a champagne at the end. So you got that. That is and then Kennedy came up, 61 to 63, sadly, 14 state dinners, but they brought, as you can expect, a certain elegance and formality. Julia Child was on television, so there was French food going on. What were they serving here? One of the only 2 presidents to serve waffle fries as a side dish, that's JFK, but they were referred to as potato gaufrette. They served the chocolate bomb, Almaden Pinot Noir, that's interesting. State dinner, Boston filet of sole, roast sirloin Concord, spinach a la creme, mousse of Roquefort, bombe glacée, Nelusco with petit four for dessert. Lyndon Johnson, what do you imagine President Lyndon Johnson, the big Texan, he had a lot of state dinners during his 6 years, November 22, of course, to January of 69. 54 state dinners. This guy liked to have a state dinner. And he took meetings sitting on the toilet. So apparently his state dinners were one of a kind as well. Big on presidential barbecue. He liked pinto beans and spare ribs, but they told him he wasn't able to serve spare ribs at the house. His chef said, you can eat home what you want. You're not going to serve barbecued spare ribs at a banquet with ladies in white gloves. President Johnson, despite he liked bourbon, according to the White House, pioneering, Americanized food. They made a delicious sirloin and spuds, basically. Okay, then Nixon came up. It's interesting, right? Nixon did 40 state dinners, including to the leader of the first to host a Russian leader, Leonid Brezhnev, in 1973. Brezhnev was served a supreme of lobster and on Bellevue, chilled lobster removed from the shell, decorated with aspic. Oh, God, they love aspic, which is just goo. Truffles and green leaves. Contrafilet of beef bordelaise, palette dorée, a Gallic way to say cheese straws, ponzo amande, eggplant with green beans, casserole, bib lettuce, salad with port salut cheese, and vacherin glacé aux framboises for dessert. Very fancy. Yeah, they liked to go fancy because they were actually emulating what the Kennedys had done. And he was the president I referred to before with Chinese food. Nixon diplomacy influenced American Chinese food. The dinners hosted in his honors during the 72 historic visit to China revolutionized restaurant menus in the United States. A country that knew of Chinese food mainly as chop suey and egg rolls was exposed to a variety of new dishes during the media blitz, mushu, pork, and Peking duck, for instance. Peking duck, man, I love that as much as anything. Yeah, he was big on, he might have downplayed Kennedy's kind of influence, but this is part of he liked their menus. Nixon did. Very acute taste, very high taste for wine, maybe more than any other president. Still Nixon. And then we move on to Gerald Ford, 74 to 1977, 34 state dinners. Let's see if there was anything notable in what he had. And the answer is no, really not a thing I can think of from Gerald Ford here. Buttered carrots. Yeah, that's exciting. Yeah, well, that wasn't much of a presidency, I'm sorry. Then you move on from there to your Jimmy Carter, who we know as being kind of 38 state dinners in his 4 years. That's the food that they served was the epitome of fancy: Maine lobster, roast saddle of veal, a selection of fresh vegetables, Columbia River salmon, roast sirloin of beef, spring vegetables. And let's see what else. Carter, great, okay. Then there was somebody else. There was somebody that really liked. Oh, then you had your Ronnie Reagan, 81 to 89, 52 state dinners, including one where John Travolta danced with Princess Diana. In 1985, Prince and Princess of Wales was served lobster mousseline, glazed chicken capsicum, brown rice, garden vegetables, jicama salad, and a peach sorbet basket with champagne sauce and petit four for dessert. Look at that. Had Gorbachev there, another Russian, Brazilian president. Yes, anyway, he also brought some California. He was a California guy, right? He brought the Chenin Blanc in. He brought the Chardonnay and some Zinfandel to those dinners as well. George H.W. Bush. Chardonnay, Executive Howe, and what did Mr. Bush go for? They were doing also kind of fresh. He had Queen Elizabeth, the Maine lobster, cucumber mousse, crown roast of lamb, potato croquettes, bouquets of vegetables, water case, San Andre salad, chev cheese, pistachio marquise with fresh raspberry. I tell you, I would like to go to a nice state dinner. Mr. Bill Clinton, I'm seeing fried chicken, but I don't know if that's really the case. Let's see. California cuisine. Yeah, this is the time that food starts really picking up in the United States of America. And even though Clinton loved his McDonald's and enchiladas, Hillary Clinton was really pushing for kind of low-fat meals. That was before she found out what was going on with her husband. And then, let's see, what were they serving? Baby boomers. They were serving American. Let's see if there's a menu for this one. Oh, tortilla soup. Yeah. Sorry about that. There's nothing really that they were serving that was all that kind of standout. Oh yeah, there it is. Japanese. They had whatever. Okay, George W. Bush. This guy was not. He didn't throw a lot of dinners. I mean, 8 years, 13 dinners, and he was not known to have the greatest, taste in food. What did they do when John? This time they had Camilla Parker Bowles come as one of their meals. Wild rice pancakes, glazed parsnips, young carrots, crispy rock shrimp with celery broth, chartreuse ice cream, red and grape sauce, and buffalo. This is the first time I think they're serving buffalo. But he didn't drink. I mean, Bush did not drink because he had some drinking experience when he was young, so there was no, I don't know, that was a problem. Pizzelle, chanterelle sauce, chive pizzelle with caviar, roasted artichokes, peppers. Oh, these are nice. And then who came after? Oh, then you had Barack Obama, 8 years, 13, not a lot of state dinners. Chicken and waffles, truffle vinaigrette. They had new Nordic cuisine. And what else during the Colorado lamb with garlic fried milk. And then anyway, so yeah, they seem to have some interesting dinner. Okay. And then of course after him you have Donald Trump, and you know that he's had one state dinner, and then he had invited all the Clemson ball players over and took money out of his own pocket to provide them with fast food. Anyway, if you're interested in the article, in the graphics, in the specifics, and the brands, and every single thing, that's FP, which is foreign policy, and that's under the heading of basically the president's what the president says. Now, finally, in the time that we have, I come across, because it's February 20 now. I don't know. It's like the middle of. How much more winter do we have? I guess another month officially. So I'm thinking, what are you eating in February? And so BuzzFeed does 28 delicious things to cook in February. I'm just going to scroll through, and we'll see if any of them catch your imagination. I know some caught mine. Let's see what I thought was interesting here. I like the cauliflower. I like that. Bacon-wrapped tater bombs. That sounds good to me. Okay, let's talk a little bit about what is, what's in season. Beets, Brussels, cabbage, carrots, cauliflower, we talked about, clementines, love, cranberries, grapefruit, kale, yeah, leeks, lemons, oranges, parsnips, pears, persimmons, pomegranate, shallots, spinach, sweet potatoes, tangelos, tangerines, winter squash, vanilla cream-filled Cabernet, hot, snowball donuts. It's a little bit too much of that. Pork. Oh, I don't know what it's going to take to make these, but if there were one thing out of all of the recipes here, and I'm guessing there's like 18 of them, fried pork dumpling kimchi nachos. Like, that is everything. Now, I took a quick peek. It's way too many ingredients. We're not going to go over it here, but the concept is fantastic. It's, it's pork dumplings, which they're actually going to tell you how to make. I say, those you kind of buy, and then, that just, let me say, hang on, let me take a look at the recipe. Because that just seemed kind of exciting to me. All right. Let's take a look at a couple of the other ones in the meantime while that one loads up. Cheese and roasted garlic, pull-apart bread. Okay. Kale citrus salad, no interest. That's for the next season. Baby bloomin' onions. Hey now. Jalapeno cauliflower shells and cheese. People like their mac and cheese, but here's a way to make like an exciting mac and cheese, I thought. By adding roasted kind of cauliflower, little florets to it. And this recipe, they're using like a box, like Annie's shells and white cheddar mac and cheese. Like they're literally, they're making it as easy as possible. Just make your own shells. You roast your own cauliflower, and you throw in slices of jalapeno, which I like. It's just because between the roasted cauliflower, which we talked about before, and the jalapeno, you get some taste, you get some texture, you get some heat, you get some interest in there. And they're talking about adding in like some fontina cheese. Nobody's going to argue with that, but they use almond milk. I don't know why. I think if you're going to cream this thing up, and that was the idea, use whatever. Use milk or cream. I don't know why you would use almond milk in this, personally. Let's see. What else is on the list? Bialys, homemade Bialys? No, buy Bialys. Churros with chocolate espresso sauce. I'll tell you what, they look good, but I'm not making churros because that looks just complicated to me. Cowboy steak. If you look at a piece of cowboy steak in a black enamel pan, you can't help but think, unless you're a vegetarian, that looks very, very good. This recipe I recall being like just super simple. All right, let's go back and come back to here's the cowboy. The cowboy steak is this saying, very simple, right? Cowboy steak is a two bone in ribeye. 4 tablespoons of kosher salt. Wow. 2 tablespoons black pepper, 3 tablespoons unsalted butter, 1 tablespoon canola. 4 tablespoons of finely sliced shallot. So this is very simple, right? Because they're basically saying, let your steak come to room temperature. This is important before you cook it. Season it with salt and pepper, and that's a lot of salt, they're saying. I mean, it's heavy on the salt. And I'm frankly anti-pepper before you grill, before you sear. I like putting the pepper on afterwards if you even need it. I think, if you get a good piece of steak, frankly, the salt does enough work for you. Heat a heavy bottom skillet over medium heat until the butter sizzles. Add shallots and cook until they're translucent. Remove from the pan and set aside. Add in the steaks. Cook until the steaks turn deep brown, 5-7 minutes for medium rare. Rotate steaks and cook until other side turns deep brown, another 5 to 7 minutes. Remove from heat and layer with cooked shallots and buttery pan juices. Easy. Good. I don't care if you call it cowboy steak or not. That's just righteous. What about those fried pork dumplings and kimchi nachos? Why does that sound good to me? Because I love a dumpling. I like a fried pork dumpling. I like nachos, but more importantly, I like kimchi. And what they're basically doing here is substituting in, your chips with fried pork dumplings. Now, you're not going to make these you could make them from scratch. That's what the restaurant actually gives you. The recipe gives you. I say if you can buy pork dumplings, and you probably could, like even at the Costco, I'm sure you can buy already done pork dumplings and sizzle the heck out of them. And then you got 2 things that are going on top. You got a what they call a nacho mojo. So now you're going to be making a sauce kind of to go on top of the pork dumplings, and it's a combination of sour cream, and gochujang, my favorite, Korean chili paste, to which you add rice vinegar, honey, and pepper. And if you need to, lighten it up or thin it out a little bit, they're saying use some of the juice from your kimchi. And your kimchi, which is your fermented veg, cabbage, basically, garlicky, yummy, 1.5 cups of kimchi. The brand I use is called Mother-in-Law. You can find Mother-in-Law kimchi in your supermarkets. It's great on its own. It's intense, it's rich, it's beautiful because of its fermented. It's also a natural, probiotic. Anyway, look at this, man. This is like a whole platter worth of fried pork dumplings, on top of which you put this kind of, instead of cheese that you would use in nacho, you're using this kind of a mixture of kind of a sour cream and a gochujang, right? That has rice vinegar and honey in it, so you're getting a little bit of you're getting a little bit of acidity, you're getting a little bit of sweet, you're getting a little bit of creaminess, obviously from the sour cream. You're getting a nice hit of heat and umami from the gochujang. I love this dish. And then on top of that, kimchi, shallot, scallion, cilantro, shredded Gouda cheese and cheddar cheese to your heart's content under the broiler. Hello? Who would not want that? Peanut butter cup fudge brownies. I want them. I don't want to make them. Grapefruit margaritas, by all means. If you like a margarita, make one with some grapefruit juice in it. Fresh squeezed. Always with the cocktails, you want to go fresh squeezed. Homemade bolognese sauce. The classic meat sauce from Bologna. Yeah, you could make it. It's time consuming. Steel-cut oats with maple roasted pears and pomegranates. Whatevs. Twice-baked spaghetti squash. Okay. Sure. Slow cooker pork ramen. You know what? It's a beautiful looking dish. I'll have somebody else make it when I go out to a ramen place. All that cooking at home. Carrot soup. Yeah, can't get excited about that. Roasted chicken legs with Caribbean-style barbecue sauce. Here's what I want to say about that. I would eat that in a heartbeat. It's a beautiful picture in a cast iron pan of roasted chicken legs that are so burnished that they almost look like they're burnt. They're not. They're just super caramelized. However, the recipe for the barbecue sauce itself has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, at least 15 ingredients. I'm sorry, that for me, if I'm using 15 ingredients, I'm making 5 courses. That's just too much. But there's an easy way to do this, right? You could buy a barbecue sauce. I'm not a fan of that. But you could take some of that gochujang paste that we just talked about. Mother-in-law's makes it. Mother-in-law, gochujang, fermented chili paste. You could rub that on some chicken pieces and put that in the oven. That would be good. You could hit up these same pieces of chicken with what I did with the cauliflower, with your Frank's hot sauce, with a little bit of Burberry, whatever, or your favorite. But the way that you get anything, that has kind of the barbecue sauce is you need something a little sweet, a little acidy. And I don't, if you have the patience to put together a 15 ingredient thing, good on you. If you don't, there's other ways around that, but it's a fine looking recipe. And this one really was the one that I think excited me the most. I don't care about salads because we're in the middle of February here. We got plenty of time. Oh, Irish coffee, by the way. I think we should come back to the Irish coffee because I just loved this recipe right here. The bacon wrapped tater tot bombs. Bacon wrapped tater tot bombs. 2 cups of frozen tater tots. I love that start. 2 ounces of sharp cheddar cut into 1/4-inch squares. 4 slices of bacon cut in quarters. 1/4 cup brown sugar packed. 1 tablespoon chopped fresh parsley leaves. Put your oven at 400 degrees. Line a baking sheet with parchment paper on silicone mat. Set aside. Working one at a time. Wrap each tater tot and cheese square in a piece of bacon. Repeat with remaining tater tots, cheese squares, and bacon pieces. Dredge each tater tot in the brown sugar, pressing to coat. Oh, wow. Place tater tots seam side down onto the prepared baking sheet. Place into the oven and bake for 20 to 25 minutes using metal tongs to turn at halftime. Oh, I love that, halftime. Serve immediately, garnish with parsley if desired. I'll tell you something. That's clever, that's easy, and it's going to be good. Tater tots, cheese, bacon, easy to make. Last recipe is going to be Irish coffee. What do you need for it? You're going to need coffee, strong coffee. And the only other thing you're going to need is some Irish whiskey. This recipe likes to add a little bit of Bailey's Irish cream into that, and you need a tablespoon of brown sugar, and then you're going to need some nice whipped cream, and you got yourself a beautiful Irish coffee. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Wednesday. This is episode 46 of All You Can Eat, coming back to you next Wednesday around 8 Eastern Standard Time, p.m. Here. With All You Can Eat. And until then, my friends, remember that life is short, so never waste a meal.
I'm the Teflon Pan Man.